it was missing the rum and it was all about the cum, unless it's the size of his penis. Hi everybody, welcome or welcome back to another video. My name is Charlotte and today it's April wrap-up time. We're going to go through the 13 books that I read in April. Yeah, April was a big reading month for me, which is weird because I think like March and April was like big reading months last year as well, so apparently this is just my time to shine. I do have one DNF and one soft DNF, but we're gonna get to it when we get to it. I usually go through the books in the order that I read them, so why don't we just jump straight on into it. Okay, so the first book I read in April, it was Game On by Miss Nevessa Allen. It's the third book in the Into the Darkness series, and hear me out. I know that he is supposed to be a morally grey FMC. I get it. I understand it. I'm here for it. I need to rewind. The book is about Tyler and it's about Stella. It is dual POV. Stella is from more of a wealthy family, like a well-standing family, and Tyler is not. Tyler needs Stella for something, but he can't really just ask her. So he has this whole like web he spins to basically blackmail her into doing what he wants, which is to date him, fake date him, so that he has an in with this society group that her parents belongs to. Yeah, that's the entire book. You kind of don't need to know more. I mean, of course, there's a lot more that happens. I didn't really vibe with either of the characters. I know a lot of people started liking Taylor at some point towards like the middle, towards the end. I didn't like him at all. I couldn't stand him as an MMC. I didn't really see anything good in him per se. I personally didn't vibe with him at all, and he kept on just making me more and more irritated. Also, what he is trying to figure out could have been an email, in my opinion. I feel like this is something that would have been solved very differently in our world. And I mean, maybe brain cells just wasn't handed out correctly. I don't really know. The entire concept of the book just feels a little bit, for me, sadly. I know a lot of people love it. I also felt that the spice didn't really hit correctly for me, the way the scene was set up, because I felt like the first time they had a spicy scene, they ended up having a spicy scene because none of them wanted to back down. Like both of them were kind of waiting for the other one to chicken out. And I personally, that's not really my cup of tea. Even though you know that both of them enjoy it, I was just waiting for someone to kind of be like, you good? You know, you good? And I know, it's morally grey. It's not necessarily supposed to be that way, but it's also supposed to be rom-com-y, if you know what I mean. And I feel like that would have made it more rom-com-y. That would have kind of pushed it a little bit further so that it would actually feel more of a rom-com, because it was missing the rom and it was all about the cum, you know. So yeah, I ended up giving it a 2.75. Now, to be fair, I think it's more like a 2.5 for me as of right now. Like now that it's been a while since I read it, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't enjoy Taylor. I didn't feel anything for Stella. The story just didn't vibe for me personally, and that's completely fine. Now, Game On was a big book that I've been waiting for. I just needed something comforting, and I did something that I never do. I started rereading the Windy City series, and I read Caught Up. Caught Up is the third book in the Windy City series. This is about Miller and Kai. Miller is a pastry chef, a dessert chef. Is that like the same thing? High-end pastry chef. And he is a baseball player. She is in a rut. She needs new inspiration. She needs some new vibes. So her dad hires her to babysit Kai's kid, because Kai keeps on firing all of his nannies, but he can't fire his boss's daughter. This book is just fantastic. I love it. It is single dad. I love a good single dad. Kai is what made me love a good single dad. And even though this one has a third act breakup and you see it from miles away, because you know it as soon as you meet Miller and you understand, it's like in the first 2 chapters, you can see the third act breakup coming from miles and miles away. I still cried like a little bitch. And it's the second time I read it. I know how it ends. I know how it ends. And I still cried like a little bitch. This is like 10 out of 10. This is 10 out of 10. That's, the next one, I haven't read that one. I'm gonna read it this month. But play along. I do think that's my favorite book out of all of them. But still, Kai is like my favorite favorite MMC. I love Kai, I love Miller, I love the found family, the storytelling. It also kind of really shows that the path you are on, it is okay for it to change. You don't have to follow it. You are allowed to change the path you are on. I love it. I give 5 stars. 5 stars, straight on. It is a sports romance. It's the Windy City series. Now, yesterday, the Windy City series was also announced that Amazon has bought the rights and it's going to become a TV show now. I don't know how I feel about that. Let's see how they do with the Off-Campus series before we talk about this one, because I am afraid they are going to put in 22-year-olds and these are supposed to be like a little bit older. So yeah, 5 stars, love it, favorite book. Then we have Rights of the Starling, which is the second book in the Shield of Sparrow series. I was so excited for this. I gave Shield of Sparrows like, I loved it. It was a fantastic romantasy in my humble opinion. I loved the storytelling. I loved how it was building up. I love that like the FMC was a little bit different. I mean, she fumbles and stumbles and is kind of a little bit all over the place, but she gets back up. She decides that she wants to learn how to fight. She decides this, she decides that. I really enjoyed it. And I was also so excited because it was only going to be a duology. I didn't have to like get invested in a 1900 book series. And then when this one came out, I realized that it was turned into a trilogy. I had read maybe like 15% when that information was handed to me. I was already a little bit confused. I didn't really know who was who. I'm not going to tell you because it's the second book in a series, but I did end up soft DNFing it. I just wasn't in the mood for it. And the fact that they had put on another book made me feel like this was really like the middle book syndrome, that all they were going to do was travel and yearn because they were not together. They were separate. They were separate and not together, so they were separate. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not really into it. I don't really want to do it. I'll just no. So I have ended up soft DNFing it. I am going to pick it back up, but I have to just read a summary or something of the first book just to sharpen my brain. And then I went over to this. Look how pretty it is. Look how pretty it is. This is The Summer I Turned Pretty. I don't feel like I need to say much about it because, I mean, there's a show on Amazon about it. I feel like I am the last person on earth that haven't read it, so, you know, I'm doing it now. But what I can say is that this is about Belly. This book is entirely through Belly's point of view. Belly travels every year to her mom's best friend's summer house, which is kind of, you know what I mean, with her mom and her brother. Susanna, who is the best friend of the mom, is also there with her 2 kids, Jeremiah and Conrad. Belly has always had a crush on Conrad, but this is the summer the boys actually start to notice her. You picking up what I'm putting down? In the book, I just felt like Belly was very self-centered. Belly saw herself first, second, and then sometime third, because as teenagers do, she didn't really take into consideration that somebody else might feel differently about the situation than she did. Also, I don't really understand why she is friends with Taylor, because I felt like their friendship was also a little bit bitchy, but I would have eaten this shit up. I would have eaten it up if I read it as like a 15, 16, 17-year-old. I would have eaten it up. But as a grown adult, it's fun. I like it, but it's not thriving, if you know what I mean. I did end up rating it a 3.5. I had a good time. If you like the show, I do recommend reading the books, but just heads up, I didn't like Conrad in the book. I'm sorry to say, sorry to this man. But then I just went straight on into the next one. It's not Summer Without You, the second book in the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Is that what the series is called? The Summer I Turned. Oh my god, is my dog okay? This is the second book. Now this is dual point of view. So you get Belly's point of view, but you also get Jeremiah's point of view in this one. It didn't really change my opinion of Belly though. It didn't really change my opinion of Belly. I still think that she, you know, as a lot of teenagers, she doesn't really see that other people are going through stuff that she can't, like that she hasn't had emotion towards yet. She's not emotionally developed in that sense, which is completely fine. She is a teenager and it is a YA romance. But I did enjoy this one more than I did enjoy the first one. I'm not going to tell you much about what it's about because I feel like that's going to spoil that one. This one felt like some of the characters had grown more up. Like they were becoming more adults. And that's kind of what I want to say. I did give this a 4. I did end up giving this a 4-star because I did really enjoy this one more than the other one. Now, the thing is that there are several people that are interested in Belly, and people keep on asking me what team I'm on, and I'm on team not Belly. Like, I can't can you guys be happy with someone else, please? I don't really like her as a character. I keep on reading because I am intrigued and I want to know where the story is going and you know, all of that, but I still don't really like her as a character, which is completely fine. You can't like everyone. I do have the third book left, but I decided that I was going to read, I was going to watch season 2, then I was going to read the third book, then I was going to watch season 3. So that's on a little tiny break. Now, the next one that I read, I do have a reading blog out on it, so I'm not going to go super into depth about the book or what I think about it, but it was just friends, you know? I felt like I had to read it. I had to see for myself because I felt like a lot of the reviews I was seeing on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, wherever it is I turned around, I felt like people were extremely harsh on it. And for things that were like, okay, but would you be that harsh if it was a different book? You know what I mean? So I decided that I had to read it myself. To be fair, I feel like if this was written just a little bit differently and it was written as a young adult book, it would have been way better. Way better is probably also the wrong word, but I would have looked at it a little bit differently. Because this is a new adult book, so it's supposed to be for 20 to like 35-year-olds. It didn't really hit for me, but maybe that's because I'm 36. But it is about Blair and Declan. Blair and Declan were high school sweethearts. Then something happens and they are not sweethearts anymore. She moves away for college, comes back because her great aunt is sick, and walks into a coffee shop. Who's the manager and who hires her? It's Declan. I felt like Blair was supposed to be quirky, but they just went straight past quirky to a little bit weird, which is fine, you know, no judgment here. But it just came off a little bit wrong for me. And the way they were speaking in the past chapters, because it is a second chance romance, you know, they were high school sweethearts and now they are not. The way they were talking in their past chapters were exactly the same as they were talking in the present chapters. So even Declan, who is supposed to be like this football, like American football quarterback god, even he has like some weird words thrown in there that doesn't, you're like, you're a high schooler, nobody uses these words, but okay. So I ended up giving it a 1.5 for the reason being that I didn't enjoy it. Okay, and the next one, oh, I'm so hot. Anywho, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the next one I did mostly through audiobook, and it is Mistakes Were Made by Lucy Score. It's the second book in the Story Lake series. I think that's the only 2 ones that are coming out in that series, but don't quote me on it. And it is about Zoe and Gabe. Zoe is a literary agent. She only has one client left, which is her best friend, who you meet in book 1. So she is moving to this small town with her because she doesn't really have much to do in Manhattan because she got fired. So you're together with her while she's trying to figure out her life and figure out who she is and what and why. I think a lot of the reason why I enjoy this story so much is because I could see myself in a lot of Zoe. So it was weird. Like it was kind of like reading how my day sometimes is, which, not that I'm a literary agent, but how her brain works. And Gabe is just a good guy. And I mean that in the best way. He's kind of like a golden retriever. He runs carpenter. He builds houses with his brothers, but he's also the town's lawyer. And he fixes up the apartment above his office and rents it out for Zoe, so Zoe has somewhere to stay when she is in town. He is out for love. Like, he wants to find the one. That's all he wants. He really wants to settle down. She doesn't. She doesn't want to settle down. She doesn't want to. And she's fine with that, you know? You do you, Bessie. It has humor and it's just, I don't know, I can't really explain it. I really, really enjoy the series. Like I said, I could see a lot of myself in Zoe. She's very whimsical. She doesn't really, like, she tries to be organized, but the way she's organized is not organized for anyone else. I had a good time. The audiobook was really, really good. I don't know how it would be if I read it, but I did, like I said, I think almost all of it through audiobook, and I ended up giving it a 4-star. It's fantastic. 10 out of 10. I feel like some of these books I don't really do justice, and that is because it's been a long ass time since I read them, okay? I'm like, yeah, I love that book. What's it about? I don't know. I just remember that I liked it, okay? Chill. After I read Mistakes Were Made, which is like a wholesome rom-com, small town, you know, smutty romance kind of vibes, I was like, I need something a little bit different. Now, I did read these in my 24-hour like reading marathon vlog, whatever you want to call it. So we're not going to go too deep into these ones either. But the first one I read in that one is Murder Bimbo. Murder Bimbo is about, well, Murder Bimbo. She ends up murdering a politician, and she sends emails to Justice Bimbo because she wants Justice Bimbo to do a piece on her and show her side of the story. So the entire part 1 is through emails. Everything is emails sent to Justice Bimbos. Then part 2 is her, wait, where is it? Act 2. It's called Act 2, it's not called part 2, okay? And the second act is just emails sent to X. I was very confused when I went from Act 1 to Act 2 because I was like, wait, are you telling the same story but differently? I was a little bit confusion, but it made sense. It did. And then, you know, Act 3, I was kind of a little bit over it, even though that is kind of what gives you the full ending of what's true, what's not true. You kind of put all of the pieces together, blah, 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 blah. It was just a little bit on the longer side for me. It is kind of like, not necessarily a psychological thriller, but it has a little bit of that psychological thriller aspect to it. You are trying to figure it out as she talks about it. But I just felt at the end that I didn't really care. I didn't really, I was just ready for it to kind of be done. So I did end up giving it a 3-star. But if you want to hear more about it, you know, you can read about it, you can look at that vlog. And in the same vlog, I also read Off to the Races, the first book in the, what's it called? It's called Gold Rush Ranch. Gold Rush Ranch Book 1. Off to the Races. This one is about Van and Billy. Van is a cowboy. I want to be a cowboy, baby. But he is technically just on the administration part of it. Like, he has people to do all the nitty-gritty work, and Billy is one of the people that do the nitty-gritty work. She is a horse trainer for horse derbies, so she trains horses that are supposed to have jockeys on the back. This is supposed to be kind of like a will they won't they employee type of thing, which, I mean, it is. I wasn't really vibing with the story. I felt like the reason Billy got mad at Von was kind of, I mean, I understand her because I think I would also be mad, but at the end of the day, it was kind of like, it's at the end of the day not your job to make these decisions. It's his job to make these decisions, and you don't really have a say in it. So I don't know, weirdly, like, I wasn't on his side, but I wasn't on her side. I just didn't really vibe with them. I think this is the first book that Elsie Silver has ever written. So naturally, you know, as everything, you find your groove more and more. I am going to read the rest of the series though, but I don't feel like this is going to be my favorite out of all of the Elsie Silver books. So I ended up giving this one also a 3-star. I had a good time. I did enjoy reading it. I just didn't find myself rooting for the couple, and I didn't find myself caring if they ended up together or not. Like, at the end of the day, they were just there. They were just there. So there's that. Then I read Six Scorched Roses, which is a novella in the Crowns and Iaxia series. You're supposed to read it in between book 1 and book 2, but you can also read it as a standalone, and I decided to read it now. It is a novella, so I don't really give it like a rating, but I thought it was fun. It was whimsical. It was really nice to be back in that world, but it didn't do what I wanted it to do, which was, I really wanted it to put me in a mood where I really wanted to read book 3, because I loved book 1. Book 2 was okay, not the most exciting thing I've ever read, but it was there, you know? And I was hoping this one was just going to drag me back into the universe so that I could jump back into book 3, but it didn't. It didn't. And I have to be honest with you, as I am sitting here, I can't really remember that much about it. I know that it's human vampire, you get everything through her point of view, and you do, I mean, it is a love story, but I can't really tell you the love story without telling you the book because it's a novella. But it didn't really do that much of an impression on me. Now, I did read it in a 24-hour marathon type of thing. That might also be part of it, that I was containing a lot of information at once over a shorter period of time. So this one isn't just sticking out for me. But I was kind of sad because I've heard people say that her novellas are like what they enjoy the most, and I didn't, so sad face. Okay, then I decided that I was going to read Honor. Okay, so his name is Sander and her name is Teddy. They are neighbors. He works with her brother, I think. Yeah? No. Yeah, I think it's her brother. I think he works with her brother, and she is pregnant at the start of the book. This isn't a spoiler. This is on the back of it. Yeah, it says younger sister, so I think he works. His best friend's younger sister. Yeah, see, that made me intrigued. She is pregnant at the start, and her husband had previously died in a fire. He was a firefighter as well. And now it's like 6 months later, and she is almost due with baby number 3, I think it was 3 or 4. She had a lot of them. Now I thought that I was like, oh, is this going to be like a little bit of a different take on a single parent? Because I didn't really mind that she was pregnant when the story started. I was actually kind of, okay, you know, you read about the birth, you did all of that, blah, 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 blah. It just felt like the pacing was a little bit weird. It felt like they were trying to rush but slowly. And I didn't like that he kept on calling her mama. I was like, you barely know this one. If my brother's best friend started calling me mama, I would ask him to go to the emergency room, because what the fuck is wrong with you? I didn't like it. I didn't really like it. I didn't. The thing that made me break, like the thing that made me go, no, I don't want to read this anymore, is not that he kept on being like, I can't do this. Promised myself I would never have a family as long as I'm doing this because my line of work is so dangerous, blah, 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 blah. And it wasn't that she was afraid that she was moving on too fast from her husband, because, you know, people move in different paces. I didn't mind. What I did mind though was when they were hooking up the first time, she wanted him to touch her somewhere, and I don't even think it was erotic in that sense. It was like on her stomach or her underboob or something like that. She wanted him to touch her there, and ever since she had given birth, her husband wasn't allowed to do so. But the first time you hook up with your brother's best friend, you're like, oh my god, I really want him to touch me there. What do you mean? What do you mean? I understand that sexuality changes and what your urges changes and what you like might change. I understand all of that. I just felt like it was very weird. The first time they hooked up together, she was like, yeah, I really want him. I really want him to touch me in that area. I don't really like it. Also, she couldn't really just say, like, she mentioned like her sleep shorts, and they were like, oh, they're on my, I see they're stuck on the thicker part of my thigh. And I was like, just say upper thigh. You don't have to point out constantly that her body is different. Because if you said upper thigh, you wouldn't think twice about it. But when you keep on saying thicker thighs, you make sure that whoever is reading the book gets reminded that she is plus size. And I don't really like that. I don't like it when it goes the other way either, when they keep on mentioning that she's a stick figure. I'm like, you know, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't need a reminder like every chapter or so what size the FMC is, because you never mention the size of the MMC, like unless it's the size of his penis. So I decided to DNF it. I had 2 hours left of the audiobook, I think. I opened the book and I found a spicy scene. I was hoping that just reading a little bit more of the book would make me want to read more of it, but no. He said, take it as the good fucking girl you are, mama. And I was like, no, down, boy. Then I went on and I started reading a dungeon crawler Carl. This has been flooding my everywhere, social media. People have been talking about it. Like, I've on Threads, this has been popping off for me. It's everywhere. I can't leave my house without seeing this book. And I got influenced. Okay, I got influenced to read it. I had very low expectations because it is a lit RPG, which is a literary role-playing game, and I've never read anything like that before. But I kept on in my head thinking that it was like Dungeons and Dragons or Baldur's Gate 3, something like that. And I've never played any of those, but I was like, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. If you don't know what it's about, it is about Carl, everything is seen through his point of view. And one day he goes outside to pick up his ex-girlfriend's cat because the cat jumped out the window, and the entire world just collapses. And if you were inside a building, you would die instantly. And if you were outside, you had two options. You could stay like on the surface and most likely die, I think, or you could go into a little hole and you could join the games, which is a dungeon crawler. I was kind of like, how is this going to be interesting? And how is this going to be interesting for, I figured out, 10 books. But my, it is. It really is. I had so much fun. This one, if you heard about Princess Donut is in this one from the freaking get-go. Princess Donut is chef's kiss. You don't really need to know a lot about gaming to read it, because you do get a tutorial. Like the book, it has a tutorial. The start of the book is a tutorial. So you learn everything. And you get to follow along when Carl and Princess Donut is trying to get through this dungeon crawler so that they can get out on the other side alive, because people die in these crawls. That's the whole thing. You only have one life. If you die, you die. You do have buffs and everything when you get a little bit out, you know, into the levels and stuff, where you can kind of like, if you play Minecraft, you have like the totem, so that pops instead of you dying. But it's so much fun. Princess Donut does a fantastic, like Princess Donut is the star of the show. But if you do like audiobooks, I do highly recommend listening to this as an audiobook, because the narrator does a fan-freaking-tastic job of bringing these characters to life. Fan-freaking-tastic. So fantastic. Oh, yeah, also, the Dungeon Crawler is an intergalactic game show, so it's a reality show as well. So people are tuning in and watching, and they get followers, and they get, what is it, like followers and favorite. People can follow their camera only, kind of like the Big Brother house, you know, you could go in and just watch different areas or people. So Carl is trying to outsmart it in a way, figure out how he can get out of there, asking the correct questions, and it's so much fun. I highly recommend it. It's so much fun if you enjoy those types of books. But I ended up giving Dungeon Crawler Carl a 4.5. I had so much fun. I enjoyed it so much that actually the next book that I read, which is the final book in this video, I'm so sorry for taking up so much of your time, that is Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which is the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I did read it as an e-read because I got this one as a paperback, and you can only get the rest of the series in hardback. So I'm waiting for every single one to get released in paperback so I can fill my shelf. But I did read it as an ebook, like I said. I'm not going to go much more into it because, I mean, the concept is still the same. It's still a dungeon crawler. It does get more, not necessarily intense, but there are new elements kind of thrown in throughout the books. I've just finished book 3, which is going to be in next month's wrap up. So you don't need to know gaming to read these books. Having a little bit of knowledge, I think, might be a good thing, and that could just be like your partner playing games. You know what I mean? But you don't necessarily need to have gaming experience. But if you have a gamer in your life and you do really want them to start reading, maybe this is where to start, because it is grabbing an audience that it normally doesn't. But I do recommend it. But yeah, those were the 13 books that we read or tried to read. One of the two in April, and I'm very proud of myself. I'm not aiming to read as many books in May. I am working way more in May than I was in April, but I'm still planning on having fun with my books. And if you want to see my May TBR, you can click the video up here or the pinned one in the comment section. And yeah, please tell me, what was your favorite read from April? What did you rate it? And maybe if you've read more than one book, what was your lowest rated and what did you rate it? And just don't say anything else. Just give me those two and see if I align with you. And we can have a chat about it. Oh, I love chatting with you guys. But yeah, thank you guys so much for spending some of your precious time with me. I'm so sorry that this was long and I felt like some of the books I didn't give you any information on, but that's just me. That's just how I function. Once again, thank you guys so much for spending some of your precious time with me. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a lovely day, evening, wherever you are in the world. And hopefully I will get to see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.